Over the past few months, rumors have been arising that MLS was set to launch a new Young Players Initiative for the start of the 2021 MLS season. Now, a few days ago, that initiative was announced, called the MLS U22 Initiative. In this video, I'm going to explain to you what it is and what kind of effect it could have on MLS. So let's get into it. Let's preface this by quickly going through the designated player rule and a few others to allow you to understand some basics about the roster rules in MLS. So back in the day when David Beckham was joining the LA Galaxy, MLS introduced the designated player rule in which players could sign contracts above the maximum salary budget charge, which in 2021 is $612,500 annually. This means that a team could sign a player like Sebastian Giovinco to a $7 million contract while only having him take about a $600,000 impact on the overall salary cap for the team. Since then, MLS has added more rules like its own league-wide currency called General Allocation Money, or GAM, as well as Targeted Allocation Money, or TAM. GAM can pay down the salary cap impact of any player on a team, while I believe TAM can only pay down the salary cap impact of someone making over the maximum salary budget charge. The introduction of TAM 5 or so years ago made it so that teams could sign more players above the maximum salary budget charge without them taking the same salary impact as a normal designated player. Having TAM and GAM has made it so that MLS teams can sign more high-profile talent who would have otherwise been called a designated player prior to the rule. Currently, only players making below $1.6 million can have their cap impact brought down with TAM. So think about Omar Gonzalez as an example. With the LA Galaxy, prior to leaving MLS, he was a designated player signing. Now, then he moved out to Mexico, he came back to MLS, still was making over the maximum salary budget charge, so you would think it would make him a designated player. But it didn't, because targeted allocation money was introduced and Toronto FC were able to sign him with targeted allocation money by paying down his salary cap impact to make him not a designated player. That's about it for all the basic rules that I think you need to understand about the MLS roster rules. There's a ton of other things, but those specific rules are things that I think you should learn about before I start explaining the MLS U22 initiative. So let's get into some of the details of the U22 initiative. So with this new initiative, now MLS teams will get up to 3 U22 initiative slots available on their roster, depending on how many designated players they've signed and how much money they make. So basically, if a team has 3 designated players that are all over the age of 24 years old and get paid over $1.6 million, roughly over $1.6 million, like the max TAM. Remember how I was saying about how only players making below $1.6 million roughly can have their contracts paid down with TAM? So basically, if all 3 of your players are over the age of 24 and their contracts cannot be bought down with TAM, so they're all over $1.6 million, then you'll only get 1 U22 slot. Otherwise, in all other case scenarios, they'll get 3 slots available. So for example, if you get less than 3 designated players, so if you have 2 or 1 designated player or 0 designated players, then you'll get 3 U22 slots. Or if you have a young designated player as one of your designated players, you'll get 3 U22 slots. Or if a designated player could have their contract bought down with TAM, so they're making roughly below $1.6 million, then you'll get 3 U22 slots. So these U22 players cannot be older than a player who turns 22 years old in their first season in MLS and can occupy that U22 slot through the year they turn 25 years old. Now for MLS homegrowns, they're still eligible for the slot on the second contract as well. Now I think with Super Draft picks it's kind of weird because I believe that they're not eligible to be a U22 player on their first contract with an MLS team, but on their second contract they are. So clearly MLS is trying to give priority to its locally grown players. The trend of prioritizing homegrown players over others continues as homegrown or super draft players can earn $200,000 above the maximum salary budget charge on their second contract and still qualify as a U22 player. So, and this is in contrast to players signed from any foreign leagues, which cannot have this happen. This means that for homegrown and draft players, their max salary that they could earn is $812,500, while for others it is $612,500. Now, the real appeal of this is the salary cap impact that is given to U22 players, in which players 20 and younger have a salary budget charge of $150,000 a year, while players between 21 and 23 will have a salary budget charge of $200,000 on the MLS salary cap. This is similar to the cap impacts of young designated players. The main difference between young designated players and U22 players is that young designated players, I believe, could have a higher paying contract and it would still qualify for this. Kind of the point of U22 players is to get more like mid-level prospects that are willing to make like $400,000, $500,000 a year, and they'll have their salary cap impact reduced to $150,000 or $200,000 a year. So MLS also relaxed some of the rules, allowing 100% of the proceeds of a U22 Initiative's player sale to go to the club, as well as significant general allocation money is handed out when a U22 player is sold, depending on the acquisition cost of signing the player. So the higher transfer fee an MLS team pays, basically, this could be a loan fee as well, or signing on fees. I'm not quite sure about signing on fees, but it's basically just any acquisition cost, any money that you spent to sign that player. Basically, the higher the amount that is, the most simplest version though is transfer fee, the lower amount of general allocation money they will get when trying to sell that player. Anyway, that's almost the entirety of the explanation of the MLS U22 Initiative. So for more information, I'll link the MLS roster rules and regulations for 2021 in the description down below. Now this begs the question, why is MLS doing this? What I would give as a reason for why MLS wants to do this is one particular quote that I want to take from his 2018 MLS State of the Union address, where he said MLS needs to become more of a selling league. Now, what does that mean? A selling league means that Don Garber wants MLS teams to export more of their young prospects to the top leagues in Europe. Now, if MLS can become a selling league, it will be quite beneficial for MLS, and here's why. When you export a player outside of MLS, not only do you get a transfer fee, which is quite beneficial financially for that team, but it also builds the reputation of that team as well. So think about it with Alphonso Davies. So Alphonso Davies left a few years ago, moved to Bayern Munich, and he started performing really well, and he ended up playing for their first team. He's one of the best left backs in the world right now. A Canadian is one of the best left backs in the world, which amazes me to this day. That being said, the reputation that he has brought to MLS youth talent is amazing. Look at Daryl Dike for an example. Daryl Dike, striker for Orlando City Soccer Club, he was drafted in the Super Draft in 2020. After just one season, after the 2020 season, he was loaned out to Barnsley with a $20 million optional fee. That would have never been offered if Alphonso Davies didn't perform as well as he did, because Alphonso Davies raised the reputation of the league and made MLS a much more respected league across the world, especially with its youth talent. And that's why we've seen players like Brian Reynolds leave the league. So on a general conclusion that I think we can draw from being a selling league, producing top quality talent, is that you'll receive more transfer fees, making the league more financially successful. However, in other ways too, it will bring more money to the league by increasing attendances. More people will watch the team, so you'll get better TV ratings, which will result in better TV contracts and this kind of thing. And this greater amount of money that will be put into the league will allow the level of soccer in MLS to gradually increase. So those are some of the main reasons why being a selling league is good for Major League Soccer. Now, the way the U22 Initiative tries to make MLS more of a selling league is, first of all, by trying to attract more top quality talent, by attracting more foreign talent through these new allowances for higher paid young talent in the league, but it also tries to retain more top quality talent produced from the super draft through the college system or through the academy system as homegrown academy signings, by allowing players to get paid up to $800,000 a year, at least for my interpretation of the rules. And that means that players like Jesus Ferreira was a good example of a precursor to what teams used to do. So basically, Jesus Ferreira was an academy striker. He ended up getting signed to FC Dallas at 15. I think he scored at the age of 15, was their youngest ever goal scorer. And then he ended up had a really good season, I think in 2019. And then they signed him to a targeted allocation money contract so that they could retain him for longer. Now this U22 player initiative would allow MLS teams to sign players to high-paying contracts, multiples of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that will help hopefully to retain these players for longer, like how FC Dallas did with Jesus Ferreira. So it will help retain more young academy prospects for longer, so that hopefully MLS will be able to get bigger transfer fees, and while they can keep them for longer in the league, the level of quality in the league will increase as well. So it's a multifaceted approach to bring more top quality youngsters, but also to help keep and retain the top prospects in MLS already who came through the academy system. Overall, this U22 initiative created by MLS this season will be able to improve the quality of MLS, and will be able to improve the quality of youngsters you'll see in the league, not just with the likes of Atlanta United and FC Dallas, who have taken two different approaches but still are signing some of the best young prospects around in MLS. But it will also help out teams like Montreal Impact or Portland Timbers have more flexibility to sign youngsters with lower risk. I believe that this U22 initiative will improve MLS, not just 1 year from now or 5 years from now, but 20 years from now. It might not exist then, but the effect that it will have on the league will be significant in my opinion. What do you think about this new initiative in MLS? I personally, as you can tell, I am very excited about it. I hope you are too. Anyway, leave any comments down below. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time, see ya.